Hey everyone, happy Monday again. I know I normally don't make two videos in the same day, but I wanted to go over something that was on my mind. So I graded everybody's paper that hasn't turned in. I'm still waiting on one. And overall, you did a great job. I hope the feedback was helpful. I left very detailed feedback. There was a few writing issues, no big deal. We can schedule a Zoom to work through that. Very simple stuff. The content was good in everybody's paper, but I wanted to. What came to my mind, I wanted to talk to you about language we use. I mentioned in the syllabus video or my welcome video, or maybe both, that I was going to challenge the way you looked at recovery, addiction, those type of things, and the language we use matters. Um, Several of you mentioned stigma or being talked down to in some way. And I want to reach out to you and tell you that the language we use helps support or disintegrate that in some way, right? Meaning, you know, when we use language like addicts, alcoholics, drug addicts, dope fiends, those kinds of things. Now, call my buddies dope fiends in a term of endearment, just kidding. But as a professional, and a client, I would never call a client that. I would never call a client an addict. I would never call a client an alcoholic. They may label themselves that, and they may identify themselves that. Fine, I would never correct that. And say, oh, you can't say that, you can't do that. I would never go to one of these recovery group meetings and change that language either. Because in Alcoholics Anonymous, well, alcoholic is in the name. Right? It's a self-help support group, though. Narcotics Anonymous, they call each other addicts all the time. I'm a recovering addict. I'm an addict in recovery. I'm an alcoholic. I'm an alcoholic in recovery. Great for that setting. For a self-help setting, wonderful. I'm never going to try to change that. However, in a clinical setting, I want to use more appropriate language because language matters. Language helps to build positivity, helps to break that stigma. The difference in addict versus substance use disorder. An addict versus a person with a substance use disorder. Here's what we're doing when we say an addict or an alcoholic is we're defining that whole person as this disorder, rather than separating the person from the disorder. A person with a substance use disorder, an individual with a substance use disorder. And guess what? A substance use disorder can go into remission, right? If it's treated appropriately, just like any other disorder, right? Where alcoholic gives me this impression I'm just stuck out for the rest of my life. I'm this thing. This has defined me. I don't like that. It's very antiquated in my opinion. It's very 1930s in my opinion. Now I have students that are in recovery almost every semester that argue with me about this and say I needed to be told I was an addict. Great. I'm not discounting that in some way. That's what the self-help groups are for. Label yourself however you choose. As a clinician, my job is not to label you. My job is to use appropriate strength-based positive language, regardless of how you call yourself. You can come in my office and call yourself an alcoholic all day long. I'm not going to call you that, right? I'm going to say a person with a substance use disorder. Or either you drink or you don't drink. It causes problems or it doesn't cause problems, right? I kind of believe as a clinician, there's three types of people who drink or do drugs. And I don't call any of them alcoholics or addicts. I think there's a person that doesn't do either. I think there's people that do drink or use drugs and it doesn't cause them a lot of problems, maybe an occasional problem. But then there's a tier 3, I like to say, where people use drugs or drink alcohol and it causes problems in their lives. Clinically significant impairment, right? From school, work, home, a number of things, health. There's a number of criteria we meet in the DSM to determine a substance use disorder. So if somebody comes into my office and says, and I say right away, I've never met this person, and they're nervous, as several of you alluded to going into one of these meetings, you felt really nervous and anxious, right? And this is how your client's going to feel coming into counseling for the first time. So it's really important that you build this rapport with your client. That's the beauty of what we get to do as clinicians, is we get to have this relationship with these folks, right? I don't want to talk to somebody I feel like is going to judge me. And when I say the word alcoholic or addict, what message does that send? Even if the message is unintentional, the message sends that hey, you're judging me. I'm an alcoholic, or you're calling me an addict. I'm more than that, right? I'm way more than that. I have my clients, let me give you this example. I have my clients do a pie chart of their life, because when I sobered up in AA 16 years ago, I never cared for that, I'm Dan, I'm an alcoholic. I didn't challenge it, because it becomes a badge of honor in those programs. I'm a grateful alcoholic. I'm a grateful addict. So I don't knock it in that setting. However, in a clinical setting, it's not helpful, right? I don't believe, and I think that we can approach it differently. While yes, addiction or substance use disorder is a piece of my pie, being in recovery is also a piece of my pie, but I'm way more than both of those things. I'm a complex human being. I'm educated, which you are too. I have a career, which you will too. I have a family. I have likes. I have dislikes. I'm a dog dad. I'm a good neighbor. Like, I'm a lot of things, right? Besides an alcoholic or an addict. And when you label me that, it puts me in this space, into this box where that's what I am, rather than separating me from my disorder, right? You don't see somebody with a clinical depression disorder and say, oh, that person's just a depressed person. This is a person that has a clinically significant depression disorder, right? You don't say, this is an anxious person. No, it's not helpful. You separate person from disorder. This is a person who has generalized anxiety disorder. You wouldn't say that's a schizophrenic. You're again identifying that person as the disorder. How about this is a person with schizophrenia? How about this is a person with a schizophrenia disorder? You see how you separate person from substance or from disorder? Very important. The language we use matters, and we want to build positive energy. Look, again, I don't want to talk to somebody that's going to judge me. And if I feel for 1 second my counselor's judging me, I'm out the door. I'm never coming back. Happens all the time, right? And so all we can do is our part, but our part is changing the language we use. I'm going to look up something real quick. This is old. This is from, here it is. It's called A Lesson in Language. And I'm happy to share this if you want. This is from 2017, spring of 2017, so it's pretty old. And this was the director who put this out, is the director of the United States Office of National Drug Control Policy. And this guy was under President Obama in 2017. And here's the current time. Again, some things may have changed. I haven't looked at this in a while. But this will give you a great illustration of what I'm referring to. So they were saying this at the United States government level, right? That the national level, that it needs to be changed. And so here's a great example. Current terminology said treatment is the goal. Treatment is the way and only way into recovery. The alternative terminology is treatment is an opportunity for initiation into recovery. It's one of multiple pathways into recovery. There's not just one way to recover. So when you get into these programs like AA, who says an alcoholic has to go to Alcoholics Anonymous, that's the only way they're going to get sober. An addict has to go to Narcotics Anonymous, it's the only way they're going to get sober or clean. That's not true. There's lots of pathways. Just because a person doesn't go to treatment doesn't mean they don't stand a chance of getting clean or sober or live an abstinent lifestyle. I didn't go to treatment. I would love to go to treatment. I'm a very pro-treatment clinician. I think treatment can be very helpful. I've seen it. Doesn't mean it's for everybody, and it doesn't mean everybody that follows doesn't think what I think is wrong or right, if that makes sense. So untreated alcoholic or addict Individual not yet in recovery. See the difference there? Huge. Substance abuse. We call it substance use disorder or substance misuse. Drug of choice or drug abuse. Drug of use. Denial. Ambivalence. Relapse prevention. Recovery management. I love that. Pathology-based assessment. Strength-based assessment. Focuses on total abstinence from all illicit and non-prescribed substances the clinician identifies. Focus on the drug the client feels is creating the most problems. This one's important, right? Because you get a lot of people that come into your office, or you will, or into your group room or wherever, and will say, you know what? I'm an opiate addict. I'm going to drink alcohol. Alcohol's not my problem. Or I am an alcoholic. I'm going to smoke some pot. Right? I'm going to eat some gummies. I'm going to take some THC in some way because that's not my problem. You as a clinician, you're about strength-based positivity and what's best for that client. And you may not believe that's appropriate or okay. I can't tell a client what to do. I'm here to help that client. I have lots of clients that use THC in some way. It's not causing them problems, though. It's not my judgment to make. They determine they live self-directed lives and determines what their priorities are or what's important to them, just FYI. So a drug is a drug is a drug. Each illicit substance has unique interactions with the brain, medication, and if available is appropriate. Relapse, return to use. That's a big one too. Relapse is part of recovery. Recurrence or return to use may occur as part of this disease or this disorder. Clean and sober. This is another one. Clean is an NA term. Sober is an AA term. Drug-free from illicit and non-prescription medication. Self-help group, which I certainly am guilty of calling it that. I just did, I think. And they like us to say mutual aid group. Drug overdose. Drug poisoning. Graduate from treatment. Commence recovery. So, there's language matters, guys, is all I'm saying. I'm happy to send you this if you'd like it. Just send me an email, let me know, or something. Or maybe I'll just put it in the resources. Either way, if I don't put it in the resources, you'd like a copy, send me an email. Again, it's from 2017, but it's definitely has merit, right? Even today, this many years later. So something to consider. I just wanted to make this while it was on my mind after grading your papers. I've asked a couple of you to reach out to me so we could go over the citations, and I'm going to do that. I got to see a client here in a few minutes, so I'm running short on time to email you, but I'll try to email you tomorrow and set up a time. Guys, great work overall. I'm real happy about what you did and your experiences. I'm glad they were positive, and we'll talk soon.